same time, I just want a fair exchange.
Just don't be an idiot and try to give me the shitty prototype. I'm a bad person, but I'm a man of my word. Give me my pulse, and no harm will come to your stupid dog. You all hear that? I've been through all the game theory on this moment 1,000 times. I'm not steps ahead, I'm miles.
The choice given to the player here from Ad Hoc Studios' hit narrative game Dispatch says a lot about the most notable theme presented throughout the story. The theme of self-confidence versus control. This theme is best portrayed in this moment through the player character, Robert, and the antagonist you see before you, Shroud. And I wanted to talk about it a little bit, because this is one of my favorite interactive game narratives in some time. But before we go over the choices the player can make in this moment, and the results thereof, we need to understand how we got here, and how these characters portray their respective themes through their backgrounds and their histories. Beginning with Shroud's background, his theming around control is portrayed early on in the game's prologue. In it is revealed that Shroud's real name is Eli Connors, and that he was once an unofficial member of the Brave Brigade, a band of superheroes that included Robert's father and the predecessor to the Mecha Man suit, Astro, with this purpose being to build many tech-based inventions. The most powerful thing he built was the Astro Pulse, which was used to power the Mecha Man suit. It is later revealed in subsequent comic The Death of Mecha Man, which the title makes it pretty obvious as to where this is going, that Shroud initially built the Pulse in the hopes of becoming an official member of the Brave Brigade. Despite these contributions, Astro cancelled the 5th vote on letting Shroud in. His reasoning being Shroud's desire to become a member of the Brave Brigade was blinding him to the duties of being a hero. After this decision, Shroud snaps and challenges Astro to a fight. Astro goes on to defeat Shroud very easily. He doesn't even get in the Mecha Man suit, to which Shroud is humiliated and furious at him. Shroud is sent off the deep end by this, and he goes on to steal a pistol, shooting Astro and killing him, which he is later arrested and charged for and locked up for many years. Due to his inability in having control over joining the Brave Brigade, he's unable to accept the situation, and instead of believing himself despite these setbacks, Shroud self-destructs, ultimately costing him many years of his life. Instead of learning from these mistakes, however, he continues relying on his vast intelligence and technical augments to try and further hide from his failures by just trying to mitigate them, eventually being able to escape from his incarceration after 15 years, and creating his iconic mask. His mask being an augment that can predict events and people's behaviors with near perfect accuracy. With it, Shroud uses it to try and manipulate events to his favor. Being free and with his iconic mask, his goal is to steal the Astro Pulse once again, which is now being used by the new Mecha Man, Robert, and leads us to the events of the start of the game. Robert, meanwhile, stands in sharp contrast to Shroud due to one key distinction. He, and by extension the player, are not afraid of making decisions that can lead to failure, giving them the freedom of choice instead of being a slave to circumstances like Shroud is. The game presents this well in its opening chapter, when Robert goes after Shroud in the Mecha Man suit after hearing of his escape from prison, without taking much time to plan things through and consider the possible consequences. Unfortunately for Robert, this ended up being a trap laid out by Shroud, ultimately resulting in the Astral Pulse being lost and the Mecha Man suit being completely destroyed. This failure sets Robert back significantly, as he has no money left to restore the suit, and with no means to power it now even if he could. He does not give up despite these setbacks though, which opens the door to another opportunity, as his experience as a well-known and expert hero in the field gains the attention of Blonde Blazer, a representative from Superhero Dispatch Network, or SDN for short. After a brief meeting, she goes on to offer him a job as a superhero dispatch operator, as well as a mentor figure to a reformed group of supervillains called the Z-Team. And in exchange, SDN would repair the Mecha Man suit and work towards finding a solution to power it. As a result, despite suffering such an immense setback, Robert did not let his failures define him, but instead used them as an opportunity to further grow. This opportunity to grow from one's failures is further reflected in the gameplay mechanics of timed dialogue options, requiring the player to make meaningful gameplay choices within a limited amount of time. By implementing this mechanic, the player is required to trust their gut in a sense, making consequential decisions despite working with limited information, but they're able to do so because of their beliefs in oneself and their judgment, something Shroud is incapable of doing. Robert and Shroud finally come face to face in the game's final chapter, where Shroud invades the SDM headquarters alongside his prime empire, the Red Ring, to get the Astral Pulse from Robert, who has since found it with help from Invisigal, one of the Zine team members. With his newly created Mecha Man suit, which they had been unable to successfully power with prototype Astral Pulses before now, Robert finally manages to fight back against Shroud alongside with Blonde Blazer and the rest of the Zine team. Shroud, seemingly defeated, pulls out one final trump card, kidnapping Robert's dog, Beef. Shroud then asks for a trade, the Astral Pulse in exchange for Beef's life. When saying this, he also notes that he's aware of the prototype Astral Pulse, noting to not fuck around by giving him the fake one, making the player really question whether or not to give him the real or fake pulse. All of this leads to this scene that we saw in the beginning.
I've been through all the game theory on this moment 1,000 times. I'm not steps ahead, I'm miles. So, don't fucking test
It is at this point the player is given multiple different options, with the two most straightforward ones being to give him the real pulse or the fake pulse. If Robert chooses to give Shroud the real Astral Pulse, Shroud will empower himself by plugging it into his augments. This makes him more intimidating throughout the rest of the encounter, and is considered one of the bad options. Attempting to give Shroud the fake Astral Pulse does not turn out much better, however, as he notices Robert lying because of his augments, and simply asks for the real one. To which Robert relents, and Shroud is empowered in this scenario as well. The game does present one final option that Shroud does not predict, however, being that the player has the option to give Shroud both Astral Pulses simultaneously. Doing so completely shatters the dichotomy Shroud presents to Robert in this situation, which makes sense given Shroud's desire for control. It's likely an option that he would never even consider himself. Shroud is at first confused by this decision, but it quickly turns to rage as he's able to not tell which pulse is the real pulse. Despite the fact that Shroud is everything he wants in this moment, the Astral Pulse is literally in his hands right now, Shroud is left completely enraged, to which Robert replies to his confusion and anger with this.
Look, you're right. I can't outsmart you. Because, you know what? I'm not a smart guy. So, the only way to keep you from knowing what I'm doing is to not have any idea what I'm doing. Which is how I feel all the time. But I trust my gut and I take my best guess. Just like you used to do. Before you plugged all those fucking Christmas lights into your head. Before you were afraid to make your own decisions. Elliot.
Shroud is enraged by this challenge from Robert, as what he is saying is going at the heart of the contradiction that's plaguing Shroud. His egotistical nature is not rooted in a belief in himself, but instead by having total control with every situation involving him, a belief that is not compatible with reality. Shroud tricks himself and others around him to some extent that he has this control due to his augments and his levels of intelligence, but even these devices can only go so far. He's not able to predict every outcome, and this is seen multiple times throughout the game. Robert calling Shroud out is ultimately admitting that he's just as fallible as anyone else, which Shroud is incapable of accepting. And as a result of this challenge, Shroud feels like he needs to be correct in this moment, just like he is in every other moment. But he's unable to accurately determine which one is the real pulse, even with his augments, being forced into a situation where he needs to trust his gut in the moment, despite having everything he wants and total control over the situation. One of Shroud's subordinates even points this out to him, to which Shroud just simply snaps back, "Shut the fuck up."
Maybe we wait till we get home?
Shut the fuck up!
He has to be right in this moment, and nothing else matters. Shroud then proceeds to take one of the Astral Pulses just at random, hoping it's the right one, and empowers himself with it, tossing the other aside. While at first it appears successful, the energy from the prototype Astral Pulse eventually rebounds onto Shroud and the rest of the Red Ring, causing all of their augments to start working and causing all of them to become sick, making them much less threatening for the rest of the encounter. By directly challenging Shroud and his insecurities, Robert, despite totally relinquishing control over the situation, he made his best guess due to his belief in himself and ultimately ended up with the best outcome in the moment, emphasizing the importance of player agency and the belief in oneself over trying to gain total control as a result of all those insecurities.
What I'm doing. Which is
In
how
the
I
end,
feel all
the game
time.
frequently demonstrates how the ability to believe
But
in
I
oneself
trust my
triumphs
gut.
over the total
Take my
control
best
over everything
guess.
in life.
Just like
By
you
being
used
able to trust in his gut, Robert ends up in the most optimal situation compared to every other moment he's faced Shroud in the past, Meanwhile, Shroud, entirely due to his desire for control, leads himself to his own destruction multiple times over, highlighting how not believing in yourself leads to ruin. While this theme is useful many times throughout the gameplay of Dispatch, I feel it's just as equally applicable in real life. As previously stated, knowing and accepting one's limitation is an important consideration when going through life and making choices. And while it is understandable to want to change things and to have some control over certain situations, that is not always achievable, and it's important to recognize what change is and is not within our control. It's important that we be realistic about our changes. Unlike Shroud's egotistical desire to control everything and everyone else around him, circumstances did not go his way. Instead, I think we should all learn to be a little bit more like Robert, and to just keep on taking our best guesses, and just keep on trusting our guts. Many thanks for watching. Hey everyone, thank you for checking out my video essay analysis on the game Dispatch. I've been working on the essay portion for this for a long time now, and I've been wanting to turn it into a video form, so here that is. I've been doing this to expand my narrative profile. I've been trying to become a video game narrative designer, and this is just one part in expanding that portfolio of mine. So if you want to check out the rest of my portfolio, check out my LinkedIn. I'll put it all in the comment below, and yeah, I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Thank you.